go live on the platforms now. I will check to make sure, but you can go ahead and start the intro.
Okay, awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Save Ancient Studies Alliance live stream of our Crewing the Ship series with Digital Hammurabi. We've got Megan Lewis joining us today.
Hello.
So as usual, I'm just going to go over this briefly. What is Sasa? The Save Ancient Studies Alliance. Our mission is to reverse the current downward trend in the study of the ancient world by engaging the public and bringing together students and scholars to share their passion for the study of the ancient world in order to inspire a vast new generation of students. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. We've got a TikTok now, and I know I've said several times we'll get that added here, and I promise I'll do that before the next one. Our live event protocol, we just ask that you be kind and respectful, listen and ask thoughtful questions throughout the event as they occur to you. You can just put them right in the chat box and we'll read them out as we can. Please be patient with tech and those administering it. It's a bit of a learning curve for all of us. And Sasa live events are live streamed, as said, on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And the recordings will be posted shortly after the event as well. You can also, of course, become a recurring donor if you like the kind of content we put out. From our Archeo Gaming to book clubs and reading groups, please consider becoming a supporter with a monthly donation. For as little as $3 a month, you can help us save ancient studies. And just a little note as well, we do have our closed captioning on for accessibility. So I do apologize for any errors that might come up on those. And now I will transfer it over to Megan. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to tell us a bit about yourself and your project.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, Cassandra. Hi, everyone. I am Megan. I'm an Assyriologist, which means I know far more about ancient Mesopotamia than really any one person has a right to know. I'm a little bit of an obsessive in that regard. And I run the Digital Hammurabi Public Outreach Education Program, which is primarily a YouTube channel. We also have a podcast, and we put out various self-published books on different aspects of the ancient world. And they're always written to appeal to a general audience, so people who haven't gone to grad school, because an awful lot of academic publications are both very expensive and very inaccessible in terms of the language they use. So that's kind of what I do. A bit of a taste of the YouTube channel. We have Sumerian classes. So if you feel like learning to read ancient Sumerian, we have an introduction class for you. We do a lot of interviews, kind of like Sasa does, with academics in the fields to get them to kind of promote their own research projects, but also explain just really the basics of Assyriology and the Hebrew Bible and the study of those things, and how academia works. Sometimes I think a lot of people, if they have an interest in the ancient world, often don't understand, because it's not ever explained to you unless you go through grad school. Don't really understand how academic research works. So we don't just kind of pull things out of thin air, much as ancient aliens might have you believe. There is always evidence and hotly debated theories that are debated through the academy, and then people decide what theories best account for the information and the evidence that we have. So yeah, that's kind of who I am and what I do.
That's good. Well, thank you for sharing. And it's always great to talk to someone, outside of the more traditional Greco-Roman sphere. And we were talking a bit about that earlier before the stream started. I guess my question would be, the first thing that came to mind is, what got you started, like, studying this topic? Like, how I have a very specific moment, in my childhood where I picked up a Greek myth book, and that pulled me into that world, and I kind of never left. What was your catalyst?
So actually similar to that, I wanted to be a classicist. I loved Greek mythology as a child, and actually the personal statement I wrote for my undergraduate application talked about how I always loved Greek mythology, but I was super glad that no one told 10-year-old me exactly how the Minotaur was conceived, because that would have been a little bit tragic, really.
Traumatizing.
Always a good start to an academic career, a little bit of trauma. So I did classics at A-level in the UK, which is like the last 2 years of high school. I did like classical art and architecture and literature, and then I had a little brief excursus and went to art school for a couple of years. And then I was, my sister actually came to the city I was in, to Birmingham in the UK, to go to an open day at university. And I like went along with her because I hadn't seen her in a couple of months. And we sat through kind of like the introduction lecture by the head of the ancient history department, a guy called Ken Dowden, who's a classicist, hilarious man. And I sat through this kind of, this is the department, this is what we do, these are the different degree classes, like the different degree tracks you can take. Because for those who aren't aware, in the UK, you choose your major going in. You don't take any general classes. You say, I want to do classics, and you just do classics for 3 years. So he talked about the classics track, the Egyptology, the ancient Mediterranean archaeology, and then he got to like the ancient history degree program. And he was talking about, you get to take classes in classics and Egyptology and Assyriology and archaeology. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. What am I doing with my life? Why am I not here? So that year I actually withdrew from the jewelry and silversmithing program I was in the first year of, applied to do ancient history, was accepted, and started the following September. So still focusing on the classics, because that was what I was really interested in. But you have to take classics and Egyptology and Assyriology classes. You do 1 year of history for each of the different regions. And at the end of it, you write an undergraduate dissertation. Pretty standard, really. Yeah. And I was assigned a dissertation supervisor, and he was an Assyriologist called Alistair Livingstone, who was a remarkable man, and we very sadly lost him to COVID in 2021. And he was wonderful and fascinating. And I told him I wanted to write on classical mythology. He said, well, that's great, Megan, but I'm an Assyriologist, so maybe we can like merge our interests. So I ended up doing a comparison of classics and Mesopotamian myth, which I loved. I found very interesting. And while like in the course of writing that, we were talking about my future plans and what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I want to be a classicist. I want to go and do a PhD program and then teach. And he said, well, Megan, you could do that. You absolutely could. But there are so many classicists, and really there isn't any new information in the classical world. They're not going to suddenly dig up another play. Everything's already dug up. I don't actually know how true that is, but this is the tact he took. He's like, everything's been discovered. There's nothing new. I was like, interesting. And then he said, Assyriology, we have so many tablets and we have so many untranslated texts, and we really need people to translate and work through that literature. You could be one of those people. And, really like 19-year-old me was completely sold on this. So I was like, yes, perfect. Let's do that. So I did a master's. Have a mission. Exactly. Like it took him, I think, about 10 minutes to convince me that classics was not the way forward. I should do Assyriology instead. And I've never regretted that choice. Although I do still have a massive soft spot for classics. But I did my first master's degree with him. And then I came to the States to do a PhD at the Johns Hopkins University. Didn't actually finish the PhD. I got 7 years in. I have like 80% of a PhD dissertation on my computer hard drive. And then I decided that if I didn't leave, I would have a nervous breakdown. So I talked it over with my supervisor, who essentially said, don't let yourself be held hostage by a decision you made nearly a decade ago, which to this day is some of the best advice I've ever received. Because a lot changes over those years. So I left with another master's degree and decided that actually public outreach was probably a really good use of my time. So here I am.
Yeah, well, that's great. And public outreach, I think, is really the way forward, especially if you're going to be in classics, or a way forward. That you can still do the more traditional things, of course. I guess, why did you decide to partner with Sasa? Like, I know our missions kind of align, of course.
Well, David was someone I kind of knew from conferences, and he'd met my husband when David went to Hopkins to interview and met my husband. So like Assyriology is a really small field. Yeah. Even if you don't know someone personally, you know of them, you kind of know the work they're doing. So when Sasa kind of started cropping up on different social media platforms, I was like, that name is super familiar. I know that guy. And I knew a lot of the people that were kind of on board in the early days of Sasa. And I did some digging and was like, this is really interesting. They should come on Digital Hammurabi and do an interview and tell my audience about who they are, what they do, and why they do it. So people came on and did interviews, and I kind of helped share some of the reading groups that were going on. And then David said, hey, we've got this partnership thing. Would you be interested in it? And I'm, absolutely, because really, the only way you grow your own platform, but also the only way you grow awareness of the things that you're trying to do. And Sasa and Digital Hammurabi do very similar things, trying to grow awareness of the joy of ancient studies, is by partnership with other people. And I'm a very firm believer that we're more effective in groups. So I said, absolutely, if I would love to help. And then actually on the back of that conversation, I said to David, I've been thinking that someone should organize an online conference. Because why not? That sounds fun. We don't have to travel. And then he said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then suddenly I was organizing a conference with him. So I will say I am not organizing this year. Unfortunately, I was not able to commit the time really that is needed to do it properly. I have like 5 children at home and then all of my own stuff. So I'm moderating a couple of sessions, and it's going to be hosted as well on Digital Hammurabi. So happy to help, even though it's not in the capacity that maybe I would have liked to. Oh, sorry, I'm being invaded by a child. Hey, hi, honey. I'm on the computer. Can you go? Good boy. Okay. He just wanted to say hi.
No worries. I have 2 kids myself. I know often I'll be waving them off on the side. Like, I'll be done in a minute. But yeah, no, we appreciate all the help that you do, especially given how packed everything is.
It's my absolute pleasure.
And it's no small task organizing the conference. For those who are interested in our audience who may not know, that's this coming weekend, actually, Sunday and then into Monday. Well, it's a 2-day conference that we'll be running. And yeah, I guess, what has been, I know you mentioned the conference, what has been your favorite thing to work on throughout, the process of, running Digital Hammurabi? And
oh God, that's a really good question. I don't have one specific thing, because I do a lot of little different things. I have ADHD, and staying on one task for extended periods of time is incredibly difficult. So this kind of work is perfectly suited to my brain, because I get focused in on one thing and I do it for several days, and then I'm like, okay, I'm bored now. I need something else to do. So then I switch tasks and do that for a few days. And then maybe I go back to the first thing and actually eventually finish it. I think something that maybe I was not expecting to enjoy, but have done, is all of the interviews I do with other academics. I was anticipating finding that incredibly stressful, because we do them all live so that we allow for audience questions. And like, I have no journalistic training. I have no public speaking training aside from speaking at conferences. And I was, the first few were deeply harrowing experiences. And I remain eternally grateful to the people who kind of sat and let me ask them bizarre questions. But as time has gone on, I feel like I've really settled into a groove with it, and I enjoy it very much, because each time I talk to someone, I learn something new. And because once you get into academia, everyone kind of focuses in on a very specific thing. So even if I talk to like 3 Assyriologists in a row, I'm talking about 3 completely different topics, often things that I've heard of in passing during class or at a conference, but never had the time to really dig into myself. So I really enjoy those. I don't know if the audience is as enthusiastic as I am. Sometimes I do think that maybe I'm just doing this because I like learning, and it's like having an hour-long personal lecture at a university. But it's fun, so I just keep doing it.
No, live your best life. Yeah, I can relate a bit. When I started doing the live streams for Sasa, I was freaked out a bit. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing, never been on camera, never mind a live stream.
Mm-hmm.
My introvert self wanted to crawl up into a ball.
Yeah.
But we pushed through, and you've
And you're
done some
doing such a
amazing
great
work.
job.
Oh, well, thank you. But yeah, definitely, if anyone's watching and wants to chime in, feel free to add questions into the chat and we can read them off. Till then, I'll just keep going. Given how challenging it can be, I guess, what's been your biggest source of motivation? What keeps you going and putting out content? And I apologize for the fire truck that you may hear.
I think this is probably the same for a lot of people who do YouTube and podcast stuff, and that is audience feedback. A lot of people, and we don't have a massive platform. We have about 38,000 followers on YouTube, which I'm honestly incredibly proud of, but it's not like in YouTube terms, that's still pretty small. But we get people saying that they not only that they really enjoy the content, but this is stuff that they've been looking for and have been unable to find elsewhere. And that's really why we started Digital Hammurabi in the first place, because so much of this stuff is inaccessible unless you have a university name behind you and several letters after your name. Like the Sumerian grammar stuff. There are Sumerian grammars out there. They're not terribly expensive. There are some that are online for free, but so often they're written for academics, by academics, for academics. And it's very difficult to take that as a self-learner and really absorb the information that's being presented to you, because it's not written for you, and it's not written in a way that is understandable to someone. Like I had a hard time understanding a lot of it when I started grad school, and I had a teacher there walking me through it, kind of step by step. So what we were aiming for was that kind of step by step, accessible, friendly language for people who were interested but didn't know how to kind of pursue that interest and how to pursue it and get accurate knowledge. Assyriology and Egyptology suffers quite a lot from ancient alien syndrome. And if you Google like how to translate Sumerian, you come up with some good stuff. Absolutely. There are some fantastic websites put out by like accredited universities and research institutes, but there are also like ancient origins websites and like things that look legit if you don't like have the
History
background. Exactly. So it can be difficult to know what to trust, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely can be. And that I haven't looked too much into Assyriology myself, but I see the same thing in Egypt. That was the focus of my undergraduate degree. Just aliens everywhere. We actually did have a question come in. Someone asked, what is HAPS?
HAPS. Okay. So HAPS is the nonprofit that I run. It started out as kind of a fundraising program under Digital Hammurabi, and it stands for Humans Against Poor Scholarship. And a couple of years ago, I actually took the plunge and registered it as a nonprofit in the US. So we had federal recognition and tax exempt status and all that kind of stuff. And what we do is provide funding for students who work specifically in the ancient Near East. And we have kind of two tracks for that. We have the summer scholarship program, which is specifically for PhD students who need money to fund themselves over the summer. And we put no stipulations on that. You can use it for food, you can use it for travel, you can use it just to pay your rent or pay a babysitter even, because if you have a small child, right, you're not writing unless you have someone watching that small child. So it's $1,500 for the summer period. And we kind of run it like a talent show, kind of. It's a little gimmicky, but I like it because it gives everyone access to the information. So we come up with a shortlist from all of the applicants, and then over like 2 months, I sit down every Saturday for several hours and interview people live on YouTube. And all have the same questions, like who are you? How did you get into the field? What's your personal specialization, and what will you use the money for? And while we're doing the interviews, it's live on YouTube, so everyone watching can ask questions. There's a question and answer session at the end, because as well as providing funding for PhD students, we also want to start facilitating that conversation between academics and interested non-specialists, because that's really not something that you're taught as a grad student. And I think it's incredibly important, especially in terms of what Sasa is trying to do, like get more people interested in the ancient world and make it more accessible to people. So we run all the interviews, and then the way the grants are allocated is that every single person who has donated to HAPS through the year is given a vote. So people get to vote on, that's why I say it's kind of like a talent show. You get to vote for the research you most want to see funded. Yeah, and the past couple of years, we've managed to fund 4 students, which I'm really proud of. And then after they finish their research, they come back, they kind of give a report on how their summer went, what did they get the work done they wanted to get done, how is their research going, what are their future plans. So that's the summer scholarship, and that's the main component of what we do. And then a couple of years ago, we started something called the Black Scholars Matter program, which is aimed at Black undergraduate students in the US working in some aspect of the ancient Near East. And it's money to enable them to go to conferences. So it is enough money to pay their like the flights and hotel fees. And we partner with ASOR, which is the American School of Oriental Research. They cover kind of Mesopotamia and the Levant, bits of Egypt. And so they provide so we give enough money for one student, they provide enough for a second student, and then both students that go to ASOR get free conference registration, and then free membership to ASOR for like 2 years, I think. Yeah, we also have tried to send students to RC, which is the Egyptology conference. We haven't sent anyone, mainly because we haven't had any applicants for RC yet. But it's a rolling grant program. People can apply really whenever. And I'm hoping to get a couple of students to ASOR this November.
That would be great. We really need things like that in ancient studies, or just academics in general. I know money can be such a big barrier for so many people to overcome.
It is. And one of the things we do with the Black Scholars Matter is we pair students, because they're undergraduates going to a conference probably for the first time. Generally speaking, it's a conference full of white people, which is not always terribly comfortable if you are not another white person. So we try and pair students with academics, black academics who are further up the food chain than they are, who can help them kind of navigate the conference experience, talk to them about their interests in terms of career paths, maybe introduce them to people who will be potential supervisors or advisors as they kind of progress through academia.
Great. We did have another question come in from, sorry if I'm not sure if this is Mark Lama. I was going to say Mark L, and I was like, no, it's still a llama. They ask, can I join your lectures? I want to be every professor's worst nightmare, a 60-year-old freshman with too much curiosity and too much time.
I plan on being that student also. Eventually, I will go back to school, possibly to do Egyptology, because I have some understanding, but it's not a massive amount. So I'll just sit in Egyptology lectures and ask a million questions. Yes, everything that we do is live on YouTube. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/digital Hammurabi. We do have a calendar somewhere. Let me check. I think that's digitalhammurabis.com/calendar. So that'll give you all of our interviews coming up. We have a couple scheduled for the end of August, beginning of September. So they should be there. Yeah. But no, everyone is welcome. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat exactly like this. And as long as they're not offensive or completely off topic, I will ask them of our guest at the end of the interview.
Yeah. And yeah, as Dr. Brianna Jackson pointed out in our chat in response to Mark, professor's worst nightmare is the silent classroom. when we ask a question. So definitely.
Oh my gosh, so true.
don't be
Actually,
shy.
one of the harder things as a YouTuber is I finished my interview, I've gone through all of my questions, and the audience is just completely silent.
Yep.
Do I let this person, do I say thank you for your time and let them go early? Do I kind of make small talk in the hope that maybe someone says something in the next 5 minutes? I don't know.
Generally what I do, just go along, keep going. Looks like, oh, we've got quite a few questions coming in. Barbara Alexander says, congratulations, Megan. Your work is amazing and so necessary.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you, which sources do you work with as an Assyriologist?
Oh, okay. So that's a really good question. And actually, the answer is currently none. I haven't done any original research really since I left. My camera is very blurry. I don't know why. I haven't done any original research really since I left. For a few reasons. Firstly, it's very difficult to actually get access to those resources without a university backing. It often involves travel, which I don't have. I mean, I have 5 children at home. I can't just take off for a research trip.
Yeah.
I'm also not an archaeologist, so it's not like I can just kind of hop on a dig and go and get data that way. What I do, I think, more is try and facilitate conversations between academics and the general public, and try to help explain and help show how academia gets used and abused by people who have a less than pleasant agenda. And my husband, Josh, does a lot of this. If you're familiar with Digital Hammurabi, you know Josh. He's the other Assyriologist in the family, although he does an awful lot more work on the Hebrew Bible at the moment, because there are a lot of people online who take the Hebrew Bible and kind of do weird things with it, like slavery apologetics, which is
I've
never
come across that.
Never pleasant. So Josh spends most of his time kind of combating that. And actually, I'm going to plug our newest book in this point, because that is exactly what this is for. The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament, Volume 2. There will be Volume 3 in a couple of years. And despite the slightly controversial title, maybe, it's intended to give people who are interested in the Hebrew Bible and kind of the historical and cultural world surrounding it, a bit of a primer in like what archaeology is, how people understand things like the dating of the book of Daniel. Like that's an area of controversy outside of academia. Within academia, it's pretty well set. So he lays out all of the information around how we know, or how people think they know when it was written, and explains the linguistic data and shows that actually this isn't scholarship done by people with an anti-supernatural bias. It's scholarship done by people looking at the data and then coming to a conclusion, rather than having a conclusion and then looking at the data to see how it backs them up. So that's a very long answer to say I don't really do a lot of original research. I do want in the next couple of years to do my own translations, popular level, general introduction translations of some Mesopotamian mythology, Akkadian mythology, partly because I just miss translating Akkadian, and partly because the Enuma Elish is amazing and Ishtar's Descent to the Underworld is amazing. And I don't think I trust any of the translations on Amazon, because they look a lot of them look a little ancient alienish to me. So that's my long-term goal.
I can appreciate that. For my graduate degree, I'm looking at studying Mesoamerica, and I come across the same when looking at popular translations. Like, this does not seem quite right. Something is off. Let's see, but I think it's about time for us to end the stream. I know we said it'd be about half an hour, but before we do that, do you have anything else you want to share? Anything you want to let people know? Or
not especially. If you are interested in Sumerian grammar, we will be releasing the second book in our Sumerian grammar, like Teach Yourself Sumerian series, before Christmas. I don't have a set date on that because I'm still editing the damn thing. And once I edit it, it has to go to proofreaders and all of that kind of stuff, but that will be forthcoming. If you want to keep an eye on what we're doing, my Twitter account is at @digi_Hammurabi. I put everything through there, or our Facebook page as well gets everything. Yeah, and if you have any like questions, you can just email me. It's digitalhammurabi@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, I think we put all of those links in the chat as well. And yeah, we're just going to end the stream now. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.